In an era proliferated by conflicts and uncertainty, a global food crisis, and a burning planet, Guterres pointed to a world gridlocked in colossal dysfunction and an international community not ready or willing to tackle the big dramatic challenges of our age.
Our world is in peril and paralyzed. Geopolitical divides are undermining the work of the Security Council, undermining international law, undermining trust and people's faith in democratic institutions, undermining all forms of international cooperation. We cannot go on like this. Even the various groupings set up outside the multilateral system by some members of the international community have fallen into the trap of geopolitical divides, like in the G20. At one stage, international relations seemed to be moving towards a G2 world. Now we risk ending up with a G nothing. No cooperation, no dialogue, no collective problem solving.
He pointed to a funding gap for global humanitarian appeals currently standing at an astronomical $32 billion, the widest ever, as upheaval abounds. From Ukraine to Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, where armed groups continue to terrorize, Ethiopia, where war has resumed, and droughts in the Horn of Africa that threaten the lives of some 22 million people. In Haiti, gangs are running amok, while Libya, Syria, Palestine and Myanmar now represent intractable concerns that the international community seems incapable of arresting. The UN chief highlighting a world in need of hope.
Dans un monde qui se déchire,
in a splintering world, we need to create mechanisms of dialogue and mediation to heal divides. This is why I outlined elements of a new agenda for peace in my report on our common agenda. We are committed to make the most of every diplomatic tool for the pacific settlement of disputes as set out in the United Nations Charter: negotiation, inquiry, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, and judicial settlement. Excellencies, women's leadership and participation must be front and center, and we all must also prioritize prevention and peace building.
As he made the case against the war on nature, given its existential threat, he argued that climate change needed to be the first priority of every government and multilateral organization.
the G20 emits 80% of all greenhouse gas emissions. But the poorest and most vulnerable, those who contributed least to this crisis, are bearing its most brutal impacts. Meanwhile, the fossil fuel industry is feasting on hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies and windfall profits, while households' budgets shrink and our planet burns. Excellencies, let's tell it like it is. Our world is addicted to fossil fuels, and it's time for an intervention. We need to hold fossil fuel companies and their enablers to account.
Guterres also called for a Sustainable Development Goals stimulus as implementation lags, an overhaul of the global financial system that continues to favor wealthier countries, and thereby further exacerbating the divergence between developed and developing countries and the growing trust deficit between the North and South. Sherman Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.